We'll call to order the Hampton Township Council agenda meeting for Wednesday, May 8th, 2024, and we will start with the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Blackburn?
Here.
Ms. Fritsch?
Present.
Mr. Midgley?
Present.
Mr. Scholey?
Present.
Dr. Johnson?
Present.
Mr. Speakman?
Present.
All right, before we begin this evening, as I'm sure most of you are aware, yesterday the township laid to rest one of our own. Sergeant Robert Kersalt passed away after a long and very hard-fought battle against cancer. Not only was Rob an exemplary officer, he was an absolutely wonderful human being, and he will be missed by a great number of people. So I'm asking that you please join me in a moment of silence in honor of Rob Kersalt. Thank you. And also, please note, Ms. Blackburn is joining us remotely tonight, so it is important that everyone remembers to speak into the microphones, otherwise she will not be able to hear us. Starting with administration, please.
Good evening. I'm going to take this one. As far as the zoning hearing board vacancies, we have received, or we have 4 applications from residents, possibly 5. One hasn't made up his mind yet. So just typically what occurs is if you would like to schedule interviews with them, they usually only last about 15, 20 minutes. And there are times where it's been on Saturday mornings or during the evening. So I'm not sure if you want to schedule now, or we can give you some dates, whatever is better for you, either Saturday or before a council meeting. It's up to you. And if you want to appoint at the end of the month, I'm not sure if you'll have time before the regular meeting, unless you want to do it on a Saturday.
Any preferences? I know Saturdays are difficult now that we are getting into the sports and summer months.
Can we do like 8 a.m. on a Saturday?
I would have no issue with that. No issue, or no, you can't do it?
No issue.
Dan?
I'm fine with that.
Bethany?
Yeah, as long as we can finish by like 10 or 10:15, that would be fine.
Oh,
Yeah, if we only have 5
like-
applicants, that shouldn't be a problem.
Yes.
All right,
Yeah.
I will send out an email asking for dates. Hopefully we can do that very soon.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item, please.
The proposal before you tonight, or will be before you actually next month, is an ordinance amending, this is the administrative legislation within our code of ordinances relative to purchasing. My initial thoughts on both this ordinance and the one you'll see later on police hiring was we might be able to enact them this month. Given where they are in our code, we actually have to seek your permission to advertise the ordinances this month, and then we can take action on them next month. As it relates to purchasing, the changes that are proposed, what we discussed at the strategic planning meeting in April, mainly raising the threshold for purchase orders from 500 to 2,500, adjusting bidding thresholds to match those promulgated by the Department of Labor and Industry, and adding language relative to pre-qualification and disqualification of contractors. I'm working with GTN to finalize the ordinance, and we'll have a copy of it to you before the next council meeting. The motion at that time would be to advertise the ordinance. So.
Any, anyone have any questions? All right, next item, please.
So we have a preventive maintenance contract currently. It's with Huckestein Mechanical. J.R. Young went out and got 2 proposals, one from Huckestein and the other from Daikin, because most of the units, package units and other HVAC equipment in our facilities are now Daikin units, and they have done repairs for us in the past. Both of those quotes were with your agenda packet. J.R., I'm going to turn this one over to you. You have the technical background on this.
Yeah, just a little background on this. The reason why the price went up, currently we pay $18,000 a year for the preventative maintenance of all the HVAC and kind of mechanical equipment within the township buildings, including the water pollution control plant. So it went up a bit because roughly like $5,700. There was equipment that was missed. It was only PM on like call-outs, like some hot water tanks, refrigeration equipment that's in the community center, like reach-in freezers, reach-in coolers, stuff like that. So I added those things on so we wouldn't get invoices specifically from a recent one. I think it was like $8,000 over the winter for the DCS garage with the tube heaters. They just weren't maintained over years, so there was a substantial amount of repairs. So those items got put on this new contract, so that's the reason why it went up. Huckenstein, of course, was lower than Daikin. I did notify Daikin of this. They did come back and they looked at their proposal. They did introduce one that was about $150 less, but my recommendation is still holding with Huckenstein because Daikin just didn't have that initial before, what was in this packet. That's my recommendation, but I mean $150, if we want to go with Daikin, we can. I feel that Daikin will still have business here. They'll get called out on repairs that are associated with the Daikin units, just because Huckenstein really doesn't have that technical background that actual manufacturer does. So that's kind of how I'm standpointing on this contract.
And Daikin is just getting into the PM field, whereas Huckestein has been in it a bit long. That what you've told me in the past?
Daikin is more of a service sales. Now they're getting into preventative maintenance. So that's their fault how they missed when they proposed this. So.
And this is for the HVAC system, JR?
Yes, HVAC, hot water tanks, boilers. So really all mechanicals. Boilers like associated with the pool. Those things are only done like once a year. There's a lot that's just done once a year. Some things are done 2-3 times a year, but it's all mechanicals.
And you said it was 18,000 annual. I'm sorry, I don't have I can't like watch the screen and look at my documents at the same time. So
okay, the current one, Bethany, is 18,000 a year that we pay. That started in 2021 to May of 24.
okay.
And the current new one would be year one at 23.8.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So are these frequencies of maintenance in line with manufacturer recommendations? Are we doing this more than needed? Are we doing this less than needed?
Good question. So things like the pool, for example, like the boilers that heat the pool, they're done once a year. They're done on startup. Typically boilers are done 3-4 times a year, but they're season short. The refrigeration equipment, for example, at the pool, like the walk-in cooler, walk-in freezer, they're done twice, start up and shut down. But like the air handlers for the pool would be done 3 times. Once in the spring, once in the fall, and then mid-season. And then the HVAC equipment as like the police station, the plant, community center, depending on what type of unit they are, the Daikins go 3 times a year because they take in more outside air, where the Aeons, older units, are they're at twice a year because the filters aren't as dirty.
Yeah.
So
And that's recommended by the manufacturer?
Correct.
Okay. I'm just curious who's picking these intervals.
Yes.
So it's the manufacturer?
Both manufacturer recommendation and the use on how I see it.
Okay. And then does that help us with warranty issues, or is there so if they come out and there's a failure, what protection do we get other than just a little bit of longevity on this?
So the spring preventative maintenance is the biggest one. They're here for about 2 weeks. That's where they look for potential faults on units, change filters, clean coils, check belts and all that stuff. The fall one is really just a filter change, and then a mid-season is kind of like, well, basically in February. It's still a filter change, but it's just checking, making sure things are not at fault, not gonna fail. Belts, motors, things like that. But your spring one's your biggest one.
Yeah. And do you know about how many man hours we're getting for $23,000? I know that I was looking through the list. There's a bunch of equipment.
Offhand,
I'm not disagreeing with that, but I'm just trying to rationalize what we get for.
so right now for the spring one, there's 80 man hours scheduled to do the whole spring startup. So he's here all this week and all next week.
And it's one guy?
One guy right now, yes.
Okay.
Now he might pull another one in, but I think it's scheduled like 80 to 90 man hours. Sometimes they have 2 here, like in February there was 2.
Mm-hmm.
In the fall there was 2 as well. They were only here for the fall and winter of, I would say, 32 hours max.
Okay.
So yeah, that would be your mid-season and your fall.
130 hours or so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna jump on that, JR. So if something's broke, is it extra, like a filter, or is that included in that price?
If something's broke, like a compressor.
Yeah, or they change filters, is that all part of that?
Filters are included.
Like the normal stuff's part of it, if something's broke, it's extra?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Who do we use now? I think I missed that.
Hockenstein,
Okay.
mechanical.
So we went from 18 to 23, and most of that increase is just because we added machines,
Correct.
or units.
Yes.
And those units that we added, they didn't do maintenance on them, like they were missed. They weren't touched, in other words. It's not like they did maintenance for free.
I don't know. I can't
Oh,
answer
okay.
that because I wasn't here for
But
that.
they weren't on the list.
Yeah, so since August, certain, well, specifically, the 2 beaters for the DES garage, or DCS garage, there was call-outs, so they came out and I had them do a full PM because apparently it hasn't been done in a long time. The unit that supplies the IT closet on this building, I believe was only maintained on a call-out. So.
As needed.
Yeah.
And I'm just, the other observation, I'm a little surprised if Daikin's moving into this business that they're that much higher. You know, you would think they'd want to be competitive if they're trying to start that business.
I think what they did, well, actually not think, I know what they did is they just had their hours calculated completely wrong. This is their 3rd time making a proposal. The 2nd time, I went over the proposal with them, stating you can't, I want to do apples to apples. So both proposals were apples to apples, but even though their 2nd time going around, I think they still missed on their hour calculation, unfortunately. I mean, we could also review this again next year.
It's a year to year, or is it a 3 year? It's a 3 year.
It's a 1 year with a 3-year option. So, or yeah,
It's like a
it's
60
3
day
years, 1
cancel
year
or something.
Yeah, if you cancel with just because we don't want them anymore, then you have within this year to next year, there's a percentage that you have to pay because the biggest PM is right now, which is the spring, which would be next year. I'm sorry, it would be the spring PM.
Next season, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, hypothetically, most of the units are Daikin units, you said? Or they sold them?
Well, let's see.
I guess where I was
There's-
going is, if,
It will be when we do the police station HVAC.
When we upgrade it, will
There's
be.
another
Okay.
5 Daikin's on top of the 6 at the community center. I don't know what equipment, you're probably not getting Daikin's at the plant. So those would be something
if their
different.
bid was closer, would it be safe to say it'd be better, or you'd be more comfortable with them because it's kind of their equipment? Or no, doesn't matter? Am I thinking too much about that?
No, you're not. It's 6 1/2 dozen another
Yeah.
really on my side.
It's like an HVAC unit. You can service it. You can service it. You can service it.
Yeah, but for repair work, I would call Daikin before I'd call, like, if a Daikin unit went down, I know it by the serial numbers. I would call Daikin.
I got it.
Yeah.
Because we'd be paying whoever for that anyway because it's broken and not.
Yeah,
I got it.
they know their equipment better. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other questions? Bethany, any questions? All right, thank you. Next item, please.
Yeah, we're actually under public safety now.
Yes.
The proposed ordinance, this is, again, similar to the purchasing ordinance. This is one where the motion would be to advertise at the next meeting and then enact it at the following one. This is a change to our hiring process and promotion process for police officers. As Tom has alluded to many times, our current system of hiring part-timers and keeping them long enough to promote them to full-time, it's just not working for us, and we've discussed changing to a qualitative process for the direct hiring of full-time officers. The ordinance that we're seeking approval for to advertise has been put together in conjunction with GTN law. We're formalizing it over the next week. I'll have a finalized copy of it to you before the next council meeting. The amended sections of the ordinance change the process for background checks and disqualification, outline a procedure for evaluating applicants based on their history and training in law enforcement, and establish a minimum grade for the written exam and final eligibility list. The revision to the promotion for sergeant simply removes the requirement for written examination, and that was given to the union for their review. They have not filed any objection to it, so you'll be seeing that finalized ordinance within the next week.
All right, Chief, anything to add for this item?
I do not.
All right, any questions? All right, community services then, please.
JR, this is you again on the AT&T building.
All right, we are requesting the release of funds for $25,000 for the AT&T building improvements. The initial plan with this capital fund was to repair the AT&T structure via roof repairs, install a garage door where the windows are, and do some repairs on the inner shell. So I started with some of the roof repair costs, and there was one we could have did cheaply at like $5,000, $6,000, which would have only lasted like 3 to 5 years. So the goal was look at something that's going to be longevity with this. And I got a cost to do an EPDM roof over the existing metal. It's a flat roof structure, brick building if you haven't seen it. And it came out at like $22,000. So after some discussion with some of the crew, the foreman at DCS, Susan and Ryan, we looked into purchasing another structure similar to what is right next to that building, which is the DES garage. That was back 5-6 years ago, I want to say, if I had that correct. So that same structure we could purchase, and that is at basically 16,000. So there's some other work that still needs to be done. Disconnect the electric from the AT&T building, reconnect from DES garage the DCS garage that would go next to it, and then some interior work that with the DES garage was done, which is insulation and some flooring and roofing, or inside flooring and sheening on the inside to heat it and keep it warm inside as well. So that's our plan with this. I don't see the dollars exceeding the $25,000.
I did see that there was a footnote that said that the quote was only good for 7 days, and this is dated back in March. I assume that won't be a problem.
It shouldn't be. No, they're very easy people to deal with up there. So
Anyone? Anyone have any questions?
Which building is this? It's between the salt barn and the trail?
It's the ugliest building in our park.
Those two
It is the
garages there?
Ugliest building in our park.
Right.
Yeah.
right by the soccer field,
Yeah,
the
okay.
parking lot and the trail. Yeah.
There's two there.
There's two now. One is like brick and
Yeah.
a flat roof, and the other one's it's more aesthetically pleasing with two garage doors.
Okay. I think there's raccoons living under one of them.
There probably is. That's probably the one.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you. Next item.
Yeah, the next item involves the purchase of a tennis backboard as part of the replacement of our tennis courts. We have a budget in 2024 of $400,000 for the replacement of the courts. Previously, we awarded a bid to Vasco Sports Paving for $342,147. In the bid package put together by Gateway was the purchase of this backboard. Vasco told us basically buy it yourselves. You can do it cheaper essentially than what we'll mark it up for. So that was the advice we took. In checking with the high school tennis team, it seemed that 10 by 32 was the most appropriate size for the backboard. The pickleball folks agree with that, though I'm not certain they'll be utilizing it as much. Rally Master is the predominant maker of these backboards. I couldn't really find another manufacturer. The price is $10,249 from Do It Tennis. Those were one of two vendors recommended to us by a tennis professional. The other quote was about $400 higher. The backboard's going to be installed along one of the fences. I don't know exactly where yet. I think we'll determine that, is when we have a pre-construction meeting later this month. And it would be installed by DCS. So with that, that's my recommendation to purchase a 10 by 32 backboard from Do It Tennis for $10,249.
Any questions?
Cart before the horse?
No, the order time on this, the lead time on it's not going to be here for possibly 8 to 12 weeks. And the tennis courts are expected to go under construction in mid-June. So, yeah. In a perfect world, the tennis courts are actually done by the end of August. But, yeah.
All right, any other questions? All right, next item, please.
Okay, this involves a resolution to submit a grant to the Greenways Trails and Recreation Program for lighting of Meadow Field. This is a project we've discussed multiple times before. The upgrades to Meadow Field, which involve lighting and installing turf. The artificial turf project is a massive undertaking. That's going to take a year of planning, and we're some time off from that. The lighting, however, may be possible if we can get a grant that we've identified. We previously worked with Musco Lighting, who's a CoStar's contractor. They've installed lighting at other fields, athletic fields throughout western Pennsylvania. They identified the cost of the project in the neighborhood of $450,000. Now, the grant we've identified is the Commonwealth Financing Authority's Greenways Trails and Recreation Program, which provides grants of up to $250,000 for renovations to outdoor parks. The grant will require a 15% match, which we would more than meet. And if we applied for it and got it, we'd likely find out by the fall of this year, so we would know for the 2025 budget year. A resolution of the governing body authorizing submission of the grants required, and we'd be requesting the full $250,000. So,
How likely do you think we are to get the full $250,000?
don't like to make predictions.
All right, fair
and
enough.
I often find I jinx myself, so I will
There are
not
no
say a word.
predictions.
Forget
shall
I
be made by
asked
Brian.
the question. All
Absolutely.
Your silence is appreciated.
right, does anyone have any questions?
That grant, Ryan, is that something we can apply for every year, or is it one and done?
No, you can apply for it. It's a recurring grant. It's available every year. I always say, take a year or two off
Yeah.
between grant submissions because they eventually are like, yeah. So,
We haven't received the funds for the trail grant yet.
yeah.
It's a down the road question, but have we looked at how the lights are going to be controlled? Is it going to be similar to the baseball fields on timers? Are they going to be burning all the time when nobody's down there using them? And do we have an estimate for what the cost is going to be to operate them under those conditions?
As far as how they're controlled, Dan or Julie, you were both at that meeting. Do you want to discuss how? It's not going to be on my phone. I'm just going to say that.
There's an app for that, Jerry.
Yeah, there's actually an application. It would probably be on Melanie and JR's phones or on a tablet to control, and you can set the timing and everything. So,
It'll be
and-
different.
yeah,
It's different than the timer
Yes.
for the baseball fields.
yes. And as far as the cost goes, the baseball field cost is what was it, Rob? It was like 27, but those are sodium lights. These are going to be LEDs. I think the cost is going to be substantially less than that.
Can we
I can get you, I will have you an estimate by the next meeting.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Next item then, please.
Okay, the Clearview Road Bridge replacement's a project we've budgeted this year. That project's partially funded by a $250,000 grant from the statewide local share account program. When the township applied for the grant, Chris Lochner, the former manager, and Dr. Johnson were listed as signers for all paperwork. In light of Mr. Lochner's retirement, we need to pass a new resolution identifying myself and Dr. Johnson as the authorized officials in order to seek reimbursement for the project. Just that simple.
Any questions? All right, next item, please.
Okay, there are two outstanding change orders from Phase 2 of the Community Park Trail with Independent Enterprises, who was the contractor for the project. We need to execute these in order to get DCNR to reimburse us, as Jerry mentioned, the $219,500 for this project. Change order 1 was previously approved. There were 3 change orders total with this project. What's before you tonight are 2 and 3. But change order 1 was previously approved. It reduced the project's cost by $228,000. It's actually the work that we just undertook this year for $125,000. What's before you tonight, change orders 2 and 3. Change order 2 further reduces the project's cost by another $34,803. It involved downsizing one of the pipes and removing fencing work that would have been done by Independent and having it done by another contractor for a cheaper price. Change order 3 increases the contract's value by $12,691. It was necessitated by an underground spring that was continuously washing away a portion of the trail. An underground pipe was installed parallel to the trail to catch this water. To give you some idea, this project was budgeted at $500,000 last year. When you incorporate these last 2 change orders, it actually drops the overall project cost to $469,655.91. It's therefore my recommendation these change orders be approved by council at the next meeting.
Any questions? All right, next item then, please.
Thank you. Regarding the road resurfacing program change orders, once council authorizes the advertisement of bids for the road paving program, PennDOT is notified of the contract that includes the roads that will be covered through state liquid fuels. It's my understanding of discussions with Joe Sites, once the contracts were awarded and we had such good prices this year, we added 5 roads. So we added them to contract A, which was the contract that's going to be covered through state liquid fuels. The PennDOT representative, he was asking some questions and a little bit concerned. So Joe Sites recommended that those 5 roads be moved to contract B instead of contract A, just so that whenever we go to close out the state liquid fuels project, there's no questions or concerns. We can still add the roads and do them because we have the money and everything, but he recommends that they be moved from contract A to contract B. And that is why the change orders are here right before you. Shields had no issues with it. They're keeping the same prices for those roads, and they've already signed the change orders. So I'm recommending that both change orders be approved at the regular meeting.
All right, any questions?
I will only say that the amount of the state liquid fuels comes nowhere close to the cost of contract A.
They do not. They do not. But they were given the roads listed in contract A, and we just don't want any issues with the completion reports.
So it's
Am I
basically just
correct
making the paperwork easier?
Yes. Yes.
That anything that's done under state liquid fuels contract has a different specification, a different requirement in materials?
The materials are, but we've added that Fortifiber, and there was no concern with that. Yes.
All right, any other questions?
Thank you.
Julie, you look like you have a question.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Environmental Services, please.
Thank you, Madam President. So for our next meeting on the 22nd, we'll have 2 change orders to present to you. The first is regarding ductwork changes to the Headworks building. They determined after... Is that better? Okay, sorry. We'll have ductwork changes for the first change order. to the Headworks building. They discovered after some changes by one of the manufacturers to the ionization unit, which is attached to our HVAC unit for the rooftop, there were some changes. They had to adjust some ductwork at the bottom of the wet well. That change in materials is $8,912.21. And the second change order is for the SBR. The header pipes that we initially had requested were stainless steel. They basically through fault, not paying attention, used ductile iron, but after conversation with our engineers over and over again, we determined that the best approach was to keep the ductile iron headers for the blower units for the SBRs. That's actually a reduction in cost because of materials of $29,528.72. So the net of these two will be over $20,000 in our favor.
And you don't have any concerns with the alternative materials that were used?
No, actually, after additional conversation, one of the things we found was the stainless steel piping is actually very difficult to get our hands on, where the ductile iron is readily available at all sorts of various suppliers. So if we do have a failure in one of those pipes, we can make a phone call and simply go pick one up.
Okay.
Where the stainless will become something will be a major challenge to get our hands on. So this is actually, I think, better overall for the long term.
And these aren't in corrosive areas?
No.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Zoning and planning, please.
Okay, the first item tonight is the Fry Cane preliminary PRD. Just to give a quick update to council, we did receive revised plans on April 30th. Just yesterday, I received review letters back from PVE and Gateway. The Gateway one is mostly clean. They do call out a need for some conditions of approval related to a few items. The most notable being the applicant will need to submit a modification request in the final phase for some slope averaging, and then also they will need to it's our recommendation that they resurface South Pioneer Road. I think there was a disagreement between the applicant and Gateway about whether that was being asked, but we are asking for that. PVE's letter is much more unresolved. There were about 39 comments on that, 9 of which I talked to Adam today. He said only about those 9 he would feel comfortable kicking to the final phase. So the rest of those, the majority of that letter, he feels needs to be addressed during the preliminary phase before council's vote. Additionally, I haven't received a final authorization from Cress, who is the owner of the subsurface stormwater pipe that is on South Pioneer Road. So the applicant, from my understanding, is working on that with them, but those 2 items, the stormwater approval and then that sign off on the modifications to that pipe, were 2 of the requirements that the Planning Commission had put on their recommendation for approval. So if we don't get those 2 items cleaned up, their recommendation for approval would turn to a recommendation against approval, and I would be inclined to agree with them. So I believe Mr. Lucci, the applicant's representative, is here today to summarize some of their changes.
Good evening. David Lucci. I'm from Victor Wetzel Associates. We did do a quick PowerPoint that I could show you the changes that we did make. Next slide. One of the comments was about the bridge strength, and we did get approval from a structural engineer saying that it is structurally sound, other than placing some bolts and nuts on the either end of the bridge to make it more stable. It's the concrete and the I-beam is not, he said, like meshed in together. So as long as you put a bolt and a nut on those, it would be more sound for strength. We did, from the last comment letter, we are removing all of the existing pipes that were draining to the Pennsylvania Turnpike. So all those catch basins will be raised and removed. We are proposing 6 inlets along South Pioneer Road, and that will be tied into the storm sewer plan that, or storm sewer pipe that drains into Cross Run. All the units, as you can see there, will have the roof drains that drain into inlets and then drain into our storm water infiltration facility. And we also have another infiltration facility behind Lot 2. The next slide, I think, was discussed about the lighting plan, and we do show a lighting plan now. We have about 19 lights along South Pioneer Road in front of all the units, and we also are showing 3 lights in our additional parking area where our CBU area is. Next slide is just the overall again. We did get comments back, as Amanda said, regarding the from PVE and the Gateway engineers. I believe Gateway is a little cleaner in that he's, as Amanda said, I guess given us his recommendation, but with some items based on for final plans. The PVE letter, we did get comments. We are addressing those right now, and hopefully we'll have those, or we will have those to you next week. Regarding, I think Amanda wanted to raise 3 items that she wanted us to discuss, and as Crest Builders are the owner of that storm pipe, and it will eventually get owned by the township. We will be tying into that storm pipe, so we've been in contact with Brad Crest and hoping that we can come to some resolution on this. He understands that we need to modify that storm pipe because it was built so shallow, and we need to have it to be lowered. That's the only reason why we need to I guess, changing that pipe system. Regarding the soundproof of the units, we are going to offer that soundproofing to all the buyers of the units. So that should take care of the sound issue. And then regarding the improvements to South Pioneer Road, we will be installing that wedge curb on that west side of South Pioneer Road. We're going to be repairing any destruction of from the existing road that we will be taking with regarding the tie-ins of the water lines, regarding the storm sewers and the inlets that we're going to be proposing. We were under the assumption that since we're doing all the improvements on one side of the street, that we were able to be able to mill and resurface half the street and not the entire street. But that's what we were thinking of, since we're on one side of the street. I didn't understand that we were going to be doing the entire length, or the entire width, we'll say. So
That was our understanding. That they would be doing the entire width.
I believe the reason why it needs to be redone is because the amount of equipment that will be coming in and out to build these, which will impact both lanes, I presume.
Because why, what is the purpose of the recommendation to do the entire roadway?
Well,
Like, what
just like she said, I mean, the utility cuts, but also just the damage that is almost certainly realistically going to happen to both sides of it due to the heavy equipment. And then also just rerouting traffic if they have areas that are, restricted due to construction, that kind of thing.
I mean, we were thinking all the improvements were going to be on one side of the street, nothing on the turnpike side. But I'll mention that to the developer for sure.
I did have one question related to the soundproofing.
Sure.
You said that you are going to be offering that to all the homeowners. How much is that going to increase the cost of the home?
I don't know, have those numbers right now. I know that, some buyers might not want to have that soundproofing, and some will, so we don't have that ironed out at this point. I mean, I think Ryan Holmes is going to be the builder here, so they're well aware that where the turnpike will be at. I'm sure that they will be looking into if they need to do any soundproofing because how close the turnpike is.
Yeah, our concern is any homeowners that choose not to do the soundproofing may come to us in a few years complaining about the sound.
Well, I guess if it's offered, then
I want
you're
to
on
know,
notice
yes.
that there's an issue, so,
It's the next owner.
well.
Yeah.
And is it like materials? Is that what's offered, or is it?
Yeah, I'm
I'm
sure
assuming
it's,
the way the home materials are constructed.
I think it might be the installation, will
Okay.
for sure. Maybe some of the windows treatment will be also offered, you know?
Can information related to which homeowners opt into that soundproofing be provided to the township so that years from now, when the ones who don't opt into it come to complain, we know which ones they are?
I'm sure we could. I mean, I think, again, the turnpike is what, I think 10 feet below South Pioneer Road. If they come here to look for a house, I'm sure they're gonna know that the turnpike's right beside them. So,
Any other questions?
Hopefully, it's strongly recommended they take that option.
Yes.
Yes.
Bethany, any questions? All right, thank you.
thank you.
Okay, the next item I have is the adoption of a resolution related to the sale of a vacant property on Hollywood Drive. Here's a map showing the properties here. This property here is owned by Kenneth and Ashley Downing. And Ms. Downing contacted me some number of months ago about possibly purchasing this lot right here. So as you can see, it's jointly owned by the township, the school district, and Allegheny County. And from my understanding, Ms. Downing, please correct me if I'm wrong, they've been doing maintenance on the property and would like to consolidate that with their land. So she's been working with the county and with Mr. Jarosky, and we have a resolution prepared by GTN. Seems all parties are amenable to it. The possible uses of this property to the township are basically none. So I don't see any reason not to sell it to them if that's what they would like, but that's ultimately up to council. If you would like to move forward with that, resolution would have to be adopted at your next meeting.
And the parcel's along a private road, I would point out, so, I mean, its actual use to us is, as Ms. Lucas said, pretty much nothing. The adjoining property owner has signed off on the sale of the property to Ms. Downing. I mean, you're obviously here, I don't know.
Yeah, if you would like, please, kind of explain what you would like for it.
Yeah, part of the property is wooded, but the part closest to our house is grass. So, we maintain the grass. We take care of any water that has to be rerouted that goes in there. Part of it goes up the private drive, which we don't own either, but we've also been taking care of maintenance with that and everything as well. The plan is to adjoin that lot and the same size lot we received as a gift from my mother-in-law who owned it behind us to adjoin the 3 lots and make it one with the house.
So once she would, if you would approve this, once
Yes.
she would take ownership, the next step would be a consolidation plan,
Yes.
which would consolidate this lot, and this lot into one parcel.
Correct.
The school district will be taking action on this month as well, just so everyone's aware.
And you said the neighbor was in agreement with us?
Yes.
What about the county?
They actually have basically said if you and the school district sign off on it, we will approve it. So they look to the local taxing bodies for direction.
Any other questions? Anyone have any concerns?
Other than how did this happen, but we shouldn't get into that.
Yeah, I'm
I mean,
curious how the township,
how
the school
you have
district, and the
3
county
owners
ended up
of that.
owning that lot.
The property went to sheriff's sale at some point in the early 90s. It fell through because no one wanted it. And the township, and in that case, the 3 taxing bodies take ownership of it.
Ah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's unique.
Yeah.
And that's all I have tonight, unless you have any questions for me.
Doesn't seem like it. Old business, please.
The only thing I would say in terms of upcoming community events, the pool will open in 16 days, 14 hours, and I believe 45 minutes as of 8:15 p.m. So, yes. Did that one from memory. I don't need a nap.
We'll expect that update every couple of weeks now, till we open. All right, did anyone else have anything that they'd like to bring up for other business? All right, in that case, I will adjourn this evening's meeting. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight.
Night, Bethany.
Was that fast enough for you? There we go.